Hey, Damien. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks, Colin. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I was just telling Bob and Avanish, I think there will be not many of us. Oh, Near's here. Cool.
Hey guys.
Hello.
In there.
You should be on PTO, as far as I understand.
Yeah, I'm kind of a PTO, but oh, don't want to miss this fun
Very
meeting. So
exciting meeting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we're close enough. I don't imagine we'll get many more, so I'll start with the spiel. It's already being uploaded to the cloud, but welcome to what I think is the last Inference Gateway meeting of the year. Um, Even though it's the last one, we still are following the CNCF guidelines. We still are asking the few people here to be polite. This is uploaded to YouTube, so we'll check if you're mean. Um, with that said, I think I'm sharing my screen. Uh, these items, oh, Mike, I don't know if Mike's here. Uh, we'll hold off on these. It looks like we have some items on the agenda. I'm honestly rather surprised. Just to check our lawn mowing. Damien, did you mow the lawn? Takes 30 minutes, 10
Just
minutes, 15.
slightly, yeah. I did a little bit of lawn mowing.
Cool. Thank you. I will take the
Mhm.
next one. Uh, Sweet. Let me see our action items from last week. We have SG Lang adoption story. I know that's moving. I don't see Shmuel here. I will reach out to him directly. Uh, and then Bob, you created an issue in the SG Lang for the LoRa file resolver. Awesome. Did this have any traction? Do you know?
No, actually, I just created this morning.
Okay, no
So,
problem. No, I've done the same thing. That's okay. That is okay. It gives us the holiday break to see get eyes on that. The words are hard. I'm gonna add to the agenda here. We are canceled the next 2 weeks. See you on Jan 8th. And I'll post this in the Slack as well. Uh, cool. Near, go ahead. You have a hand.
Yeah, FG Lang, the item from previous meeting. So I was not there last meeting, so I'm not sure exactly what was discussed, but I have seen some PR already opened. Maybe it's still work in progress, not sure, from Rahul, which essentially the PR adds a manifest, the YAML file to deploy SGLang as the same way we do with VLLM, with the GPU, CPU, and the simulator. So now the next question is, do we want to add like tabs and additional support for SGLang in quick starts? Do we think it's just like it's going to be there as something that can be used out of the box, or do we want to put like more enhanced documentation about this?
I I hope we can treat it like a first class citizen like we do VLLM. I don't know if you saw, but Hugging Faces deprecated TGI and basically said I would use VLLM or SGLang. So I think we want to keep that trend and support both equally. I would just consider it another another tab in that list, and that's what I mentioned to Rahul. Yeah, we have the GPU VLLM, CPU VLLM, the SIM, and then just SGLang, which would assume GPU. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
that's what I think.
So
And go ahead.
yeah, so I was actually trying to make a point. The point is just like the user experience of running the quick start guide. So just to make sure that it is clear, I support what you said. So I do think that SGLang should be a first class citizen, exactly the same as VLLM. So we are neutral in that
Mhm.
sense. But there is some like I think it's a minor issue, but it really bugs me when I run the quick start guide, for sometimes I run it to test that things are still working. So
Yeah.
in each and every step, I need to reselect the tab. And the more tabs that we add, the more options that makes it a little less user friendly. So I was thinking maybe we can, once we add SGLang, and of course also in the new year, not now, maybe we can do like one selection at the beginning of the page of the quick start guide where we just select, I don't know, maybe this combination of whether it's a GPU, CPU, SGLang, whatever, and the gateway. So we select once at the beginning of the page, and then we get everything rendered with the correct content. So ideally, I don't think that is so convenient to need to switch to the tab. It's a minor issue, but still, I'm trying to think about newcomers when they come
Yeah.
to this repo and they try to run the quick start guide, and essentially they might want to have like the simplest experience to make them happy when they run it.
Cool. I'm in support of something like that. I will say I'm not a front end engineer. I haven't worked on front end for like, I don't know,
Yeah,
7 years.
same here.
And Netlify, the what we use for the static website, I think it has its own syntax that's pretty it's really convenient if you're doing what you want, but I think outside of that, it may start to break down. So I'm not against that in spirit. I just think technically it would be more time just because we're trying to do something custom. But if it already exists, I mean,
Yeah. So this is the reason I'm raising this question here. So maybe someone from the contributors here in the call, maybe someone is familiar with Netlify, at least to that particular point where maybe some of the people here know how to do that part, like select a tab only once and get everything. I think it should be possible.
It's definitely possible. We had this at HashiCorp for docs where you could write things in either JSON or HCL. So it's I've seen this on docs pages before. You can if you want to create an issue and assign it to me, I probably won't get to it until the new year. But I've done some front end stuff in the past.
Yeah, perfect.
Should be relatively
well,
Thank you.
straightforward.
Thanks.
Near, should I have you make that issue?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. All right, Mike, you are actually up next. Um, I think you may have asked this in Slack, but yeah.
Yes, yeah. This is just kind of trying to bring some of the questions that I had in Slack the other day to a broader audience. So yeah, two different things. The first one was trying to get a better handle on CRD management practices for the Gateway API inference extension. I wanted to one like check what LLMD or any other implementations are doing today. Like do those implementations expect the CRDs to be installed in the cluster out of band, or do they have an install process that installs those CRDs automatically? And the reason for this is trying to figure out because these are vendor neutral CRDs, this is similar to the Gateway API, there's the potential for multiple implementations in a cluster. And in Gateway API, we've taken a lot of discussion around trying to avoid installers stomping on each other and upgrading or deleting, especially with like experimental CRDs, resources that may be in use by another implementation. So I just want to kind of like check in about what is happening today in reality, and then
Mhm.
like have we thought about this problem in this project?
So today, as far as I know, the LMD well-lit paths, I'll just assume they'll only tell you to install if we're dealing with a fresh cluster. As far as actually coming across this problem, where let's say we have like a V1 Alpha 1 in one gateway, and then another gateway wants to use V1 Alpha 2 for the same CRD. I haven't. I haven't been involved in any interaction there of, someone, a guide telling you to stomp on the old one unintentionally. But I see what you mean.
Yeah.
We can go ahead.
I'm less concerned about like older implementations like needing to be updated to the latest version because that's something where you can just like I'll wait for the latest implementation to install my new thing. Or you uh it's more of making sure that like when you install an implementation, it's not going to delete CRDs that you already have in use by like overwriting them with a different version.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen.
Okay.
And Daniel can keep me honest here, but we designed Inference Pool with this problem in mind. We had the benefit of Danian and Rob who have dealt with this, and we made sure that the status actually, that the status is way more complicated because I believe there's like the parent object, so it's the parent gateway, and then it has a status just in case multiple gateways are all pointing to the same inference pool. Danian, is that
That's
correct?
correct. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, so
That part I was
that
assuming was working because from looking at the series, it was mostly just like, is there an installer that might accidentally overwrite or delete things that are already installed in the cluster? So
is
if that's kind of the practices seem to be mirroring that of Gateway API of like what I would expect and hope, it would probably be good to clarify that on the website somewhere. It's just in terms of like how like guidelines for implementations to make sure that new implementations don't start doing this because it can be really messy for the ecosystem.
heard. Yeah, we can definitely document that. We should be good for now, but yeah, document that to make sure we're
Cool.
good in perpetuity is a good idea.
Cool.
Um, any hands, any comments there? I think that's a fair point, Mike. Cool. You're up next, so yeah, take it away. I'm gonna
Yep.
bye.
Sorry for the monopolizing the meeting, but yeah.
No, you're
The other
good.
thing I want, so yeah, this is just kind of some of the like rigor around like production use and trying to like as the project gets more mature, some vendors and stuff are starting to try to build products around this kind of thing. And I wanted to get a better understanding of versioning policies for the inference extension and if those mirror kind of the similar policies that we do have published for Gateway API up the core spec. Um, and yeah, just kind of like, is that something that we would want to publish and make official in terms of like where like what things might change in different releases, what when we will or will not make breaking changes, and some of that stuff, just so that we can have kind of that more confidence in the stability of these things moving forward now that they're V1 for Inference Pool and post 1.0 for the Inference extension as a project.
Cool. And we can do that just to kind of scope in your concerns. Is that specifically around the API? Uh, it sounds like it might be. Is that around the EPP, the binary deployable? Where are you most concerned?
I think it's predominantly the API, so like
Yeah.
spec and it's like with Gateway API, it's like things might change on status, things might change on conformance, but like the spec fields will not have breaking changes. We will not remove something that was in spec. We will not um yeah, do things like that. Like there's upstream Kubernetes rules for like how you pluralize a
Exactly.
field safely and things like that. Um, the EPP one in particular, I saw an open issue on that doesn't look like it has a resolution yet. I'd be interested in that. Um, but that's something again that like if we just get to some kind of guidance, particularly like published guidance, that would be really helpful.
Cool. Yeah, we can do that. The semantic versioning around our API specifically, we follow Semver pretty much exactly. Uh, but yeah, we can give more guidance there because I do think we have the potential to have breaking changes in EPP even on minor versions.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but
And,
yeah,
and
we
also
can
just with
document that.
and also just with Semver, like it's a Kubernetes V2 has basically been said like it will probably never happen. I think Gateway API is a pretty similar state of like it is
Yeah,
extremely unlikely we will ever do a V2. I've worked in the JS ecosystem where you have a V14.
sure. That's probably fair. Yeah, because I know the path is you leave the field, you just mark it as deprecated, and then make a new replacement, whatever. Yeah, that we do that commonly in internal Google as well. But cool. Okay, we can document that. That's easy enough. Thank you for bringing these up.
Cool. Appreciate it. Yeah, just it's the kind of just like rough edges to make sure that we're in good shape to like actually productionize this and bring it to customers.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I have two things. I'll leave it to open forum because we have plenty of time. I won't be surprised if this meeting is short. We're all gearing up for the holiday, which is great. Uh, but also, I think I see a lot of new faces, and I think I forgot to do this last week. But if there are any new faces here that want to introduce themselves, please. The floor is absolutely yours. We'd love to hear from you. Always happy to hear from new people.
Hey all, technically not a new face. I've been in this meeting actually once before, but being that it was only once, I'll introduce myself again. I'm Sailor. I work on Nginx, specifically Nginx Gateway Fabric. We recently added support for the inference extension. So um, yeah, mainly here just to kind of catch up, see how things are going, and then I also had posted a little bit of a conversation in Slack that I figured if there was time I could chat about, but I'll also let anyone else chat if they want to.
Cool. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm Jackie. I've been here before, I think maybe one meeting, and I think I sat around at KubeCon as well when we were having some conversations. But yeah, I'm working on trying to get the Gateway API inference extension support to beta in Istio. So just kind of doing some things around there. I think I posted a conversation around the conformance tests because we run those within Istio. So I started that on Slack, and I think Ricardo's been helping me there kind of separate. I think he has a PR out right now to separate or create a separate Go module for the conformance tests because those have a
Yeah,
dependencies on Gateway API, which similar to what we need to do in Istio, just so that if the conformance tests are out of sync with Gateway API or whatever version we're using, it's not going to impact the rest of the Istio
yeah,
repo. So I'm
yeah.
working on doing that and setting up the conformance tests.
Cool. Nice to meet you, Jackie. And yeah, I believe I met you before. I think I remember. Yeah. Um, cool. Anyone else? I see all mutes. Sailor, why don't you go ahead and take it away if you want to bring up your topic. We have a lot more of the people involved in conformance here.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so as I kind of posted in the Slack thread, I was just kind of thinking ahead to the future and what might be impacted by the API as it stands today. So as it is today, inference pool requires the endpoint picker ref, the assumption that it's a standalone component that needs to make that routing decision. And I was thinking about the case where the gateway itself or the proxy itself is built to make that decision where to route, and you don't need a standalone endpoint picker, whatever that may be, whether it's the provided one or a bring your own. Um, and what that means for the API being that the required assumption right now is that you do have that extra component running. So I was just kind of curious on thoughts around that, if that becomes optional, if that is a use case that pops up in the future, that in and of itself, I don't think is a breaking change to the API.
Mhm.
Um, or is that confusing to have that in there for implementations that don't use it? I just kind of spitballing thoughts here on that.
Damian, I look to you here. Agent Gateway, as far as I know, is not an Envoy implementation, but it does pass conformance tests. Do you guys put the inference router basically in band, we'll say, with your proxy, or how's that handled?
I think pardon me, I think the big difference of what Saylor is describing and the agent gateway implementation is the agent gateway implementation is modeled off of the Envoy
Okay.
implementation, and that being that it supports the EPP protocol spec, right? And so, um, Sailor, correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding, you're talking about an implementation that says, "Hey, I want to implement the API, specifically Inference Pool V1, but not the EPP protocol specification." Um, and I think that's kind of a gray area. I think when the project started, right, we had the two specifications because they can evolve separately over time. But I'm trying to recall offhand if there's any kind of overarching specification that says, hey, if the inference pool does require the EPP protocol specification. And if not, I think Sailor's primary issue is as we look at the inference pool, specifically the inference pool spec, there is a field endpoint picker ref that is required. And so I think that is kind of the gray area, right? Because the inference pool API essentially requires that there is a reference to an endpoint picker. And as we look at the endpoint picker ref, right, we know that as I'm looking at it now, we have fields such as the group kind, name, port, failure mode. And really of all of them, it's only the name that is required. If this field was optional, I think that would satisfy the field being the endpoint picker ref. I think that would satisfy Sailor's request, but obviously with trying to think how that works from an API standpoint. Mike, you be on the call. If we move a field from required to optional, that would be considered a breaking change, correct?
No. Moving optional to required is a breaking
Yeah.
change. Moving
Okay.
required to optional is permissible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just punt it back to you, Sailor. Did what I described does that kind of capture your request and what you're thinking and so forth?
Yeah, and just to be clear, this isn't something that like I need right now. This is more hypothetical thinking ahead, what if, but assuming that that is a future that is possible, then yeah, I think making it an optional field is probably the simplest way to bypass that for any implementation where, your proxy can do that routing logic on its own without the need for this external endpoint picker.
Cool. Nir has a hand. Sorry, just to.
Yeah, so Sailor, I do have a question. So correct me if I'm wrong. If I got it right, you want to like implement your own EPP within the gateway, right?
In theory.
Yeah,
Yep.
in theory. Okay, so the question is, so I understand like if theoretically you would want to have something very, very simplistic, like get a request, I don't know, do a round robin or some kind of, I don't know, something very, very simple. But as we move forward with the project, we add more and more layers, which essentially we add a lot of complexity. And I'm kind of, thinking, why would a gateway want to re-implement those things? Because here you can just, use the investment, get it for free. Leaving aside the fact that TPP is currently gateway agnostic. So once a gateway satisfies the APIs, the protocol, it is conformant, we can use that gateway. But leaving that aside and assuming you have a specific use case. So is there like a special reason or something like, yeah, in theory, I understand that might be like a thinking for such a direction, but practically, do you think that is really useful? Like we have a lot of layers, a lot of complexity, and re-implementing those is like a lot of work, I'd say.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And you're referring to just like how the EPP makes a decision, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and
Not
I
not
think
not only, yeah, it's not only how it makes a decision, it's also how do we collect the information that we are using so that our selection is based on some information. For example, the data layer, how do we exchange data? How do we make sure that the data is processed within the correct order given a request? We have some dependencies, like specific plugins should prepare the data before the others because they're dependent. So there are a couple of dependencies in the data preparation per request and the metrics collection and so many layers here that I would assume that a gateway would prefer to avoid um, implementing that.
I'll let one with hand. Is it Danian? How do you say your name?
Yeah, Damien. So, Sailor, something that you probably interested in if you haven't seen it, I'm trying to pull it up. Give me a second, unless someone else beats me to it, is the standalone work that's being done, right? And uh, I, it almost sounds like that might be a better fit for you. That doesn't actually, essentially a standalone inference gateway that doesn't require gateway API. Um,
We don't
and
even
I'm trying
use
to,
inference pool. Um,
right,
so
right. So,
yeah.
and the intent of that, I think, um, I'm not sure if Abdullah's on. I don't see him.
He's
Uh,
not gonna make it.
Maybe Kellen, maybe I could punt it over to you to describe because I'm a little foggy on it. I'm trying to pull up some information, but kind of where it's at, right? I know the intention, or I think where it's at was like, okay, standalone for more of like kind of model training environments as opposed to online inference or for batch inference, and we no longer with a standalone need any of the gateway API resources and um, and the intention, or I think where it's at right now, is actually like running the EPP as kind of a sidecar.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
know in the design doc, it was like, hey, potentially just having a kind of a standalone uh, inference gateway without a sidecar. And Colin, maybe I'm sure you could do a better job of describing it.
Um, I think it would still have a sidecar. So the layers were kind of, this fully fledged inference gateway the way we have it today, and then the lighter weight standalone for someone who just wanted to do quick testing. Sometimes standing up the full gateway can take a bit, and if we can just deploy a single pod, easier. And then the next step would be removing any Kubernetes, anything so that we can bring the inference gateway ecosystem to people who are not yet ready to come to Kubernetes. Because that's a lot of feedback we've gotten is there's a lot of people who may benefit from inference gateway but aren't ready to come to Kubernetes. So those are kind of the layers there. And as far as like developmentally where it is working. We want to scale test it. I'm really curious to see what a pod that is doing the proxy work and the inference routing work where it's holding opening up all these bodies and all this memory. I'm curious to see that how that'll perform and what kind of compute requirements we have. So that is where that's at. But Taylor, that's a fair point. That might be along the lines of what you're thinking.
Yeah, and I just found the issue, put it in the chat window, and in that issue, it links to the EPP as a standalone request scheduler Google design doc that Abdullah put together. And if you go down to the proxy replacement section, there's two approaches. And that's kind of what I was trying to describe is I think where it's at today. And again, please, Kellen or others, correct me if I'm wrong, is the proxy is a sidecar or the proxy is a sidecar to the EPP. But what I was also trying to describe and potentially what I was thinking of was this approach too. It sounds very similar to what you're describing, Sailor, as and so yeah. With all that said, is maybe this is something that you want to kind of track and get involved with. Um,
Yeah,
so
so kind of, yeah, so to go back and kind of address what both of you have been saying. So at least for my specific side of things, like we're in on Gateway API. That's kind of where our focus is, not necessarily branching out of that right now. However, I'm also thinking about um, well, let me back up a sec. To the point of EPP having a lot of complexity and why reinvent that, I think that's totally fair. And for a lot of implementations that they're never going to want to do that. And so it has that value. When you're at a place where you are building the proxies and the load balancers, not just the controllers that configure them, load balancing for inference is a use case. And so that's always a possibility that, we want to explore, even just for efficiency's sake of avoiding an extra hop between the proxy and the EPP, or just making our proxy better. I'm not saying that's happening. It's just kind of me thinking that what the future may hold, depending on how much inference takes off and where the world of load balancing itself goes. Um, so that was kind of my original thoughts around it, as to why something like this might even be considered.
Cool. So I think what we can do is let's either spin up an issue or a discussion because it sounds like this isn't urgent; it's longer form. So I think that would be the perfect place for this. And we can put thoughts there, or if you have like a doc that if you're wanting to maybe push a little more or have a little more thoughts, let's do that just to gather other opinions and see what people think. My only issue with the endpoint picker ref being optional is just what the UX looks like. Uh, just because it's actually not optional for some, but then it would be optional for yours. And would that make for a weird user experience? Do we just need to document that behavior? But anyways,
Yep, totally understand.
Maybe, yeah, I would also add to your points, Kellen, that in theory, I'm fine with making the endpoint picker ref optional, but having said that, I would avoid doing that as long as the question is still like in theory. Until we have a concrete requirement, I wouldn't change that. And as soon as we have real requirement, yes, I'm fine with that, but let's keep it aligned with how things work today, at least until there is a new use case, a new requirement.
Yep, I agree with that too.
cool. Daniel.
yeah, and so the endpoint picker ref, I'm gonna go back to a few different points in time developing the API. We're kind of throughout the use case of making it optional in the sense of running the endpoint picker as a sidecar, right? And so that kind of satisfies part of your requirement that you were talking about, Sailor, of at least getting rid of the extra hop. And so, if that's something um, that would help you, then I would put that in the issue you create as well.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, thanks. I appreciate the conversation.
Right,
Cool.
because then if it's a sidecar, we could just make it a UDS connection.
Yeah, makes
Cool.
sense.
Thank you for bringing it up. Appreciate it. Yeah, happy to explore these new ideas. And yeah, glad to see. I was really excited to see Nginx support Inference Gateway. So thank you and your team for all the work there. Other than that, we have open forum if anyone has any other topics, or I can see you all in the new year. It's up to you all. Luke. Go ahead. Still no audio. You're unmuted on Zoom, but we're not getting your input. Nope.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. I have plans on promoting saturation detection to an extension point in EPP. So taking it beyond the way it works right now, which is looking at Q depth and KV cache utilization thresholds, and moving it to something that's a little bit more stateful or smart about regulating traffic flow. So like the very basic plan that I have right now is to write a concurrency limiter. So the operator configures like, I want 10 requests open per pod. And then we just make sure using like the pre-request response complete hooks in EPP that we keep concurrency to the backend pool at that configured number. This is a little bit easier to tune for workloads than like these thresholds. My question is right now, saturation detection is used in two places. It's used in flow control for regulating the dispatch rate, and then it's also used in admission control for shedding. From a config standpoint for this like extension point, does it make sense to absorb this into like the flow control config path at this point, or keep this as a standalone component? Because flow control is also like an admission control plugin, so things are a little bit cyclical right now. And I'm trying to understand like what's like, do we just treat saturation detection as like a sub component of flow control, or is this like a separate top level feature of EPP?
No, I think folding it into flow control is fine. Saturation detection was kind of like the flow control placeholder. So I think folding it together is fine. I would love to maybe we rename admission control to flow control because we use the term flow control so colloquially. I think I'm using that term right. But yeah, just to make it simpler, because the only time I see admission control is when I read it in code, but otherwise we talk about it as flow control. But anyways.
Okay, so that would be like we have right now, we have these admission control plugins. Like if you go into like the request path, there's like run admission control plugins. Effectively, these become flow control plugins, of which the flow controller is one. So there's like a taxonomy issue that I'm not clear on how to solve here. I can open a discussion post on GitHub for this as well, or issue. But this is just like dependency management. We should probably smooth out at some point.
Yeah, these are details we can talk about. Yeah, we can talk about it. But as far as like folding that into the flow control ecosystem, I think that's fine, unless Daniel or Nir has any issues with it. Cool. I will take silence as compliance. So sounds good. All right. Yeah, going once, going twice. Cool. See y'all. Thank you for the wonderful year, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Happy holiday.
Bye, y'all.